Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the absolute ultimate biological question. What exactly makes something alive? I mean, it sounds like it should be a simple answer, right? You see a bird flying, you know it's alive. You see a rock, you know it isn't. But defining the basic principles of life actually matters quite a bit in the real world. It's a question that dictates everything from modern medical definitions of death all the way to how we search for alien life on other planets. So today, we're uncovering the core mechanics that define every living organism. To do this, we are decoding a foundational text on the living world to really separate the biotic, that's the living stuff, from the abiotic, which are the non-living components of Earth. By analyzing these specific principles, we can move past just simple observation and really start understanding life through the lens of systematic biology. Here is our detective's checklist for today. 1. Differentiating living and non-living. 2. Metabolism, the energy engine. 3. Growth and responsiveness. 4. Reproduction and exceptions. 5. Aging and eventual death. And finally, 6. Biology's ultimate gray areas.
Okay, section 1. Differentiating living and non-living, biotic versus abiotic.
So, what exactly makes a thing living? We know our planet is a mix of these two fundamental categories, biotic and abiotic. But what actually sets them apart? While abiotic factors, think minerals or sunlight, are absolutely essential to the environment, they just don't possess that internal drive that characterizes a biotic being. We need a way to quantify that drive. What's the standard by which we judge life? To find out, we're going to track this well-orchestrated timeline. From the very moment an organism is produced or born, it follows a specific sequence. It grows, it processes energy through metabolism, it eventually undergoes aging, and finally, it faces death. This sequence is a shared, continuous journey for literally all living things. Let's move to section 2, metabolism, the energy engine fueling survival. Okay, so how does a newly born organism actually survive in the real world? Look at this core definition of metabolism. A living being can't just be, it has to actively survive. And to do that, it needs energy and specific chemical molecules. Metabolism is basically the process of breaking down those molecules and creating new ones to keep the whole organism running. Without this chemical engine, life simply stops. And it's really cool because metabolism isn't just one single action. It's actually a two-part harmony. On one hand, you have catabolism, which is the breaking down of molecules to release energy. And on the other, you have anabolism, which uses that energy to build new molecules. This constant back-and-forth cycle of breaking and building is pretty much the exact definition of a living state. All right, section 3, growth and responsiveness, interacting with the world. Now that our organism's energy engine is running, it doesn't just stay static, right? It grows. Now, we've all seen sand mounds get bigger or maybe boulders that seem to grow as material just piles up on them. But unless that boulder is somehow eating rocks to grow from the inside, it isn't alive. True biological growth has to happen from within. Non-living things just accumulate stuff externally, whereas living organisms develop through a highly orchestrated internal process. Which leads us to a super unique property called responsiveness, or what's known as irritability. Every single living being reacts to its surroundings. Whether that's a thermal change in temperature, a chemical shift in the environment, or even biological changes, the ability to actually sense and respond to these things is a defining hallmark of being alive. Moving right along to section 4, reproduction and exceptions, the continuity of race. As we go further along the life cycle, we hit a phase designed to ensure that life doesn't just stop with one individual. The general rule here is simple. Life has to perpetuate. To pull this off, an organism tries to produce a young one like itself. This can happen through asexual or sexual reproduction, and it's basically the mechanism that ensures a species doesn't just go extinct the second its current members die off. But wait, here's a massive curveball. If reproduction is a strict requirement for life, what about sterile worker bees or certain male bees that just don't reproduce? I mean, they are clearly living, breathing, and working. This raises a fantastic question. Can we really call reproduction an all-inclusive characteristic of life if there are obviously living things that never do it? It's a point where these rigid biological definitions start getting fascinatingly fuzzy. Next up, section 5, aging and eventual death, the inevitable decline. So we have to follow this chronological arc to its conclusion. Growth and development, they don't last forever. Every metabolic engine eventually begins to wear down. At a certain point in any organism's life, the molecules, organs, and systems just start to lose their effective working capacity over time. And this is the biological process of aging. The body just isn't able to maintain its peak performance anymore, and the orchestrated systems begin to slow down. Ultimately, this leads to the final stage, death. Biologically speaking, death occurs when the organism completely loses its capacity to perform metabolism. Since no organism is immortal, the moment those chemical reactions cease marks the end of the biotic journey. The engine completely stops, and the organism inevitably returns to the abiotic world.
Finally, Section 6, Biology's Ultimate Gray Areas, Pushing the Boundaries.
Okay, we've covered the standard checklist, but the source text leaves us with some truly brain-teasing edge cases to think about. If metabolism is the ultimate key to life, what do we make of in vitro tests? Imagine a test tube where metabolic reactions are actively happening, breaking and making molecules, but there's no actual body or organism involved. Is that isolated reaction alive, or is it just a chemical event? It forces us to ask whether life requires a whole, complete organism or just the right chemistry. And for our final thought, consider a really profound modern medical dilemma. A patient who is brain dead but mechanically kept on life support. They don't have any self-consciousness, yet their heart is beating and their cells are actively performing metabolism because of machines. So where exactly do we draw the line here? Are they living beings or non-living systems? It's a really provocative question that proves these basic principles of life aren't just dry textbook definitions. They are profound questions that define human existence. Definitely something to think about.